Basically, what came out last night in last night's meditation that I am supposed to tell you guys is that politics is difficult, politics is rough, and politics is heartless. And it's about chasing the golden ring, right? So if you ever saw The Hobbit chasing after the ring, that's kind of an analogy to politics in DC. This is how Spirit wants you to kind of look at this world and to be able to. They lie on both sides because it's dog eat dog. Everybody wants to win. This group lies, or they distort the facts, or they twist what somebody says against this group, etc. And so the voter becomes confused because it's a dog eat dog world, politics. And so we have to be really good consumers of the media and looking at data, looking at bills, and we have to be a little bit more involved perhaps than we have, and not just assume that we're going to hear the truth just because somebody says it. We really have to put an effort in. But it's a dog eat dog world. And so for that reason, if you want to get into the head of a Republican strategist, you cannot have any emotion at all. If you want to be a Democratic strategist, you cannot have any emotion. You only have to think in terms of, how do I win? And that's really difficult for you and I to come to terms with that because we just don't think like that. But in politics, it's about a good ground game. And what does that mean? This is a war. We're out to get the ring. It's either you or me is going to get the ring, and it's going to be me. What do I have to do to get the ring? So if you're thinking like that, step back and look at Donald Trump. And if you step back and you look at Donald Trump from that perspective as a Republican strategist, you see that we have a problem because Donald Trump was good for them in terms of they won an election, right? And they were able to create an unstable coalition with the MAGA populist crowd of the poor. Yeah, the cry of the working poor. And that happened because jobs had gone overseas. They've gone to China. Now China's GDP is about 4.5, and the US GDP is under 3%. It's at about 2.7. So China is going to topple us economically, and then we won't be the main power because the billionaires sent their business over to China, which helped China's GDP and hurt the US GDP. So that cost us our GDP. It also cost us our workers. So Democrats and Republicans are both responsible for that because they thought in terms of what their big donors wanted rather than the needs of what was best for the United States, right? So as a result of that, we now see a drop in our GDP and a rise in China's GDP. And that's a problem. So if I'm a Republican and I'm thinking in terms of winning and I'm thinking in terms of Donald Trump and holding our coalition together, I see that we have a couple different groups holding us together. We have the evangelicals who are pro-Israel, and they're going to support the APEC, right? APAC. And we also have the MAGA people that sometimes cross over to that group. Then we have the billionaires that think in terms of billionaires and millionaires that think in terms of the bottom line, trade, economics, how they can get their trade out, how do you get rich? Because you get cheap labor and you're able to produce your product cheaply. So that's China, right? So everybody went to China. And then, so you basically have these three groups, the evangelicals, the MAGA, and the libertarian kind of who are out for themselves, and which has really harmed the United States, right? We're broke because of what happened. So if I'm a Republican strategist, and I'm looking at this situation objectively, and I'm thinking about the fact that Trump can only serve for 4 years, I'm thinking, how long can we put up with the chaos of Donald Trump before it gets to be a problem? Because we have to think about 2028 and who our candidate is going to be in 2028. And our candidate in 2028 is not Donald Trump. So that's the first thing I think about when I put myself in a remote as a Republican strategist. This guy is gone. The longest week he can hold on is 2028. And then in 2028, we would have to have a primary to determine who the next Republican would be. And that could really screw us up. So what's the solution if I am a Republican strategist? The other problem that I'm having as a Republican strategist is that this guy doesn't get along with anybody. Our allies hate him. He's having problems with Canada. He's having problems with France. He's having the British hate him. The Germans hate him. So from an economic perspective, this guy's unstable. He's hated. So the other thing that's working against him is that this guy is old. He's 80 years old. So if I'm a Republican strategist and I'm looking at the situation, I'm seeing an 80-year-old guy who's unstable, who's caused global unrest. And if he serves 4 years, it'll be disastrous and we will have to do a primary. So how do we avoid that? We kick him out. We kick him out fast enough so that JD Vance can take the presidency. And then I've got 2 years to build the popularity of JD Vance so that we can not waste time with a primary and go straight into an election. If you're hiring me as a remote viewer to do profiling and to give you my opinion objectively, which I've been asked to do as a remote viewer, to not put my personal spin on things, which I don't think I do. I mean, I can give you my opinion, but my job is to put myself in the shoes of the other, and the other is the enemy, right? This is what the art of war is. This HCRV was developed in the case of warfare by the Chinese 5,500 years ago, right? This is what we know about the origins of HCRV, the branch of remote viewing that I do, similar to the type of remote viewing that the Tibetans are doing. So what's the takeaway? If this is the report, just like I can give a report to the IDF or sending one to the State Department. So if this is the conclusion of my report, you can do whatever you like with it if you're a Republican. But if you're taking my advice based on the data and based on my profiling, I would say you need to get rid of this guy sooner. Make up an excuse. Give him a dignified out that he had health challenges. Have him go out like Reagan as a big hero, waving his fist, fight, fight, as he's rolled out in a wheelchair. But the bottom line is, pay him off to leave. Give him a big chunk of change, but the guy can't stay. I would say with this type of energy, I would agree with what Linda G had a dream. She said, 18 months. I can't guarantee the time because time is fluid. We have free choice, but I can tell you that if the Republican strategists are seeing the data the way that I am, they need to get rid of this guy fairly soon so that they can build up JD Vance for the next elections, because this guy has no future. He can only do 4 years. He's mentally unstable, and he's going to cost us our reputation abroad. So we need to get rid of him as soon as possible. Pay him off to resign. Put in JD Vance and then pump him up in the media to be a saint and then we won't have to worry during the primary. That is my opinion. If you're paying me, if the GOP is paying me. Now, I'm a Democratic strategist. That's what I do. My job is to help the Democrats. So now the Democrats know what the Republican strategy is. So many of you are Democratic activists for the Democratic Party. You now know what's coming, what the secret plan is to take this guy out and replace him with Silicon Valley, because it's good for business. It's good for the GDP. It's good for the billionaires. And if they don't agree, if they think that another option would be better for them economically to keep this nut job in there, but really, Trump serves no purpose by being there. As a Republican strategist, I can't think. We already bought JD, so what do we got this guy for? Get rid of him. Put Rami Swamy in as his VP, and you're golden. Or somebody, another libertarian. But that is basically my prediction for where we're headed, based on what I would do when I put myself in the shoes of being. Is it so bad for Trump? Because I don't think it's such a bad deal. I get my power back. I fight. Look, we want to pay you to leave. Can you just be in a wheelchair or something? Like FDR, waving your fist as we wheel you out of there. Cut the guy a check for $500 million or whatever. Come on, we got to save the republic. I know. It's just terrible. Oh my God, I can't believe those Republican strategists did that. That's so amoral. To treat Donald Trump like that, to just kick him. Look, they're paying him off to leave. I know, you got into the private documents of the GOP's. I'm a horrible person. Wow. That's why you guys hire me. Oh my God. Look, the guy did not release his medical records. How scared is the Republican Party and the GOP about the fact that their candidate will not release it? Come on, folks. Give him the money. The guy's not staying. Now, here is the thing to have a conversation about next is, what do we do with JD Vance? Because that needs to be our focus. Trump is the bright, shiny object who's not even staying. 18 months, maybe, right? The focus is JD Vance, who's, by the way, Catholic, right? Converted to Catholicism. So he's all in for Project 25, right? So why keep Trump around when he's just pissing off our allies who we do business with? Get rid of the guy, pay him off, right? It's so simple. There you go. This is the power of remote viewing.